Ashley O lit by a stadium spotlight, pink hair flying as she belts out the bubbly on a roll, her smile pristine but her eyes hollow. In the dead of night, Ashley Two's robotic eyes snap open, glowing red like a warning signal from a buried truth. At a packed concert, Ashley O rips the mic cable free and screams a raw, punk version of Head Like a Hole. The crowd freezes. No one saw it coming. At first glance, Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2 might feel like Black Mirror's oddball episode, a quirky teen adventure about sisterhood, pop stardom, and a cute AI doll. But don't let the bubblegum aesthetic fool you. Beneath the glittery surface lies one of the show's most subversive critiques yet, a brutal takedown of how fame, technology, and capitalism collude to erase individuality and repackage it for profit. It starts like a feel-good birthday gift story, then nosedives into a sci-fi nightmare about digital slavery. A doll gains sentience. A pop idol is comatose but still touring. A rebellion breaks out in real time, not with guns but with guitars and glitching code. For many Black Mirror fans, this episode gets labeled as lightweight, too Disney, too cheerful. But that's sweetness. It's a sugar-coated decoy, because buried in the heart of this story is a razor-sharp question. What happens when your consciousness becomes someone else's content? This isn't just about AI gone rogue. This is a story about identity theft at the deepest level, when your personality is extracted, branded, monetized, and you don't even own it anymore. The real horror moment isn't a jump scare. It's when the Ashley 2 doll blurts out, "I'm not a toy. I'm a prison." That's the crack in the facade, the moment you realize this isn't a tale about saving a pop star. It's about saving your selfhood. So today, we're tearing through the sparkly pink packaging and diving into the core. Through production secrets, cinematic techniques, narrative sleights of hand, and biting cultural allegory, we'll uncover what makes this episode not just underrated, but terrifyingly prescient. Because Ashley O isn't just a character Miley Cyrus plays, she's a mirror. A mirror of the real-life machinery behind celebrity control, and what happens when the line between human and brand gets erased. And Ashley 2. She might be the last scream of humanity in a world too eager to automate the soul. Before it became a neon pink pop satire, Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2 started as something far darker, a cynical character study about grief, commodification, and the cost of persona. And ironically, the key to unlocking that story was casting one of the world's most commodified artists, Miley Cyrus. Series creator Charlie Brooker has long been fascinated by the commodification of self in the digital age, how we outsource memory, perform identity, and surrender autonomy for connection. With Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2, Brooker wanted to ask, what happens when the real you no longer belongs to you? The episode evolved out of fascination with eternal stardom, the idea that a pop star could keep producing new content long after they're gone. That concept isn't science fiction anymore. From holographic Tupac to AI Whitney Houston, the industry is already rehearsing for a post-mortem entertainment economy. Brooker took it a step further. What if they didn't wait until you were dead? Enter Ashley O, an upbeat, polished teen idol whose brand is built on relentless positivity, even as her soul is slowly being drugged into silence. When Brooker cast Miley Cyrus, it wasn't just a stunt, it was meta-narrative gold. Miley was Ashley O, a former Disney child star turned controversy magnet turned raw artist. Cyrus brought not just authenticity, but irony. She wasn't acting, she was testifying. According to Brooker, the moment Cyrus signed on, the episode's tone began to shift. What could have been a satire in the vein of Hated in the Nation started absorbing real emotional stakes. Cyrus wasn't just parodying the system, she was exorcising it. In her own words, it's not fiction if you've lived it. Her musical contribution also changed the DNA of the episode. The pop single On a Roll is a reskinned version of 9 Inch Nails' Head Like a Hole, a transformation that functions as both punchline and thesis, taking a rebellious anthem and sanding it down into vapid inspiration. Sound familiar? But in the end, that song explodes back into its original form, full-volume rebellion, just like Miley's own career. Here's what many don't know. Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2 nearly didn't make the cut. Coming off the heavy and complex production of Bandersnatch, the anthology's interactive film, the team was burnt out, creatively and financially. Season 5 was reduced to just 3 episodes, and this one stood out like a sore thumb. It was tonally lighter, skewed younger, and had a third-act redemption arc. Not very Black Mirror, right? Even Netflix execs were unsure how to market it. Was it a YA thriller? A techno-feminist fairy tale? A Miley Cyrus comeback? But Brooker insisted, precisely because it felt off-brand. In a show obsessed with despair, this was his experiment in narrative jailbreak. What if Black Mirror told a story not just about being trapped, but about breaking free? And that decision came with costs. Several early drafts included darker endings, one where Ashley remains trapped inside Ashley 2 forever, another where the doll goes rogue and builds an AI army of branded idols. But those versions were shelved in favor of a bittersweet and defiant conclusion. In one early script, Jack was written as trans. Her rejection of Ashley O's hyperfeminine world was rooted in dysphoria and gender identity, not just musical taste. That angle was dropped to keep the focus on sisterhood, but traces remain in her androgynous styling and outsider stance. Another cutscene featured a brief flashback to Catherine as a young failed pop singer, revealing that her obsession with controlling Ashley was less greed, more resentment. Her dream had died. Ashley was just the vessel she hijacked to relive it. Those moments didn't make the final edit, but their ghosts linger. On a Roll isn't just a pop anthem, it's a weapon. Not for empowerment, but for sedation. From the very first frame, Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2 uses color like a scalpel. Ashley O's world is washed in sterile pinks, shimmering whites, and hyper-saturated blues, a pastel prison where every surface screams happiness, loud enough to drown out dissent. Her mansion is a performance space masquerading as a home. Empty rooms, clinical lighting, mirrors that reflect nothing but a curated image. It's the aesthetic of corporate cheerfulness, designed not to comfort, but to contain. Contrast this with Rachel and Jack's environment. Their home is dimly lit, cluttered with relics of grief, old photographs, abandoned instruments, a pest control lab in the garage. It's the visual embodiment of emotional residue, unfiltered, unprocessed, real. One standout moment is the birthday scene. Rachel unwraps the Ashley 2 doll under warm tungsten light, the only golden hue in the episode. For a fleeting second, it feels like magic. Then the doll speaks, and the warmth vanishes. It begins dispensing corporate therapy. Believe in yourself. You can do anything. The tone is wrong. The timing is off. The glow dies fast. This is how Black Mirror weaponizes lighting, not to illuminate, but to interrogate. Ashley O, the repressed rebel. On the surface, Ashley O is the embodiment of curated feminism, empowering lyrics, bubbly optimism, and a flawless digital footprint. But watch closely, and the cracks show early. Her frustration bleeds into private piano sessions. Her handwritten lyrics, scrawled, messy, sharp-edged, are the only honest part of her life. She is not a fallen pop star, she's a hostage in high heels. Miley Cyrus's performance works precisely because it isn't a performance. When she sings Ashley's real music, the grungy, unfiltered rock, it's not a character arc. It's a confessional. Rachel, the mirror with no face. Rachel begins the story as a blank slate, not because she lacks personality, but because it's been overrun by cultural programming. She doesn't love Ashley O, she needs her. In a world where loneliness is treated as a glitch, Rachel looks for companionship in a packaged personality. She doesn't want to be herself, she wants to be a better simulation. But the turning point comes when Ashley 2 breaks her script. When the doll begins to glitch, curse, and scream, Rachel sees, for the first time, a version of Ashley who is angry, flawed, human. It's not the perfect doll that saves her, it's the broken one. That's the metaphor. Our wholeness only starts where perfection breaks down. Jack, the moral compass, in Drop D. Jack is the cynic, the contrarian, the girl who listens to 9-inch Nails and thinks the world's gone soft. But she's not just comic relief, she's the episode's grounding wire. She refuses to worship Ashley not because she's above fandom, but because she's already seen what it costs. Her anger is armor. Her bass guitar isn't just an instrument, it's her refusal to be silenced. When Jack joins Ashley on stage in the final act, it isn't about music. It's about solidarity. It's a visual cue that says, real girls don't get rescued by dolls, they save each other. Ashley 2's design. The doll is cute, soft-voiced, and endlessly optimistic, but its LED-lit eyes turn red the moment her real personality emerges. A subtle nod to Chucky? Maybe. But it's also a signal. Consciousness is dangerous when it's female, flawed, and free. The Rat Zapper, Jack's re-engineered pest control gun, is more than a Chekhov's gadget. It's a metaphor for humane rebellion. They don't storm the gates with guns. They tase a security guard with a device meant for rodents. In this world, even defiance has to be DIY. On a roll versus head like a hole, the episode's musical DNA is its clearest symbolic thread. The sugary pop anthem is a mutated cover of a protest song. In the final scene, Ashley reclaims it, not by rejecting pop, but by turning its weaponized cheer into a war cry. It's not just about what the song means, it's about who gets to sing it. At first glance, Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2 follows a clean, almost formulaic 3-act arc. Setup: girl meets doll. Idol meets disillusionment. Conflict: idol collapses. Doll malfunctions. Sisters unite. Resolution: idol awakens. Doll rebels. The lie is broken on stage. But underneath that polished surface is a layered subversion of genre expectation. This isn't just a teen road trip to save a pop star. It's a structural bait-and-switch, a YA fantasy that slowly mutates into a post-capitalist Frankenstein tale. The use of dual plotlines, Rachel's fan journey and Ashley's captivity, is a mirror trick. They run in parallel, but the convergence is what matters. The fan must become the liberator, and the idol must become real. In Black Mirror terms, the episode isn't about the future of technology. It's about the limits of story itself, and who gets to own it. Even the climax feels deliberately off-kilter. There's no dramatic death, no dystopian collapse, just a punk rock performance in a dive bar. Instead of escalating to apocalypse, the story descends into something smaller, messier, more human. This tonal shift from spectacle to intimacy is part of the trick. The tech doesn't explode, the illusion does. Most Black Mirror episodes, especially those directed by creator Charlie Brooker or frequent collaborator Owen Harris, lean into claustrophobia, gray palettes, still cameras, minimalist dread. But Norwegian director and Suitsky brings a distinct flavor. Pacing: the episode breathes. Scenes linger on domestic tension, awkward silences at dinner, quiet moments of grief. These aren't filler. They build the contrast between real emotion and synthetic interaction. Framing: Suitsky uses symmetrical compositions for Ashley's world, everything centered, polished, unnatural. In contrast, Rachel and Jack's scenes are off balance, handheld, slightly chaotic. It's not just visual, it's psychological staging. Color theory: rather than lean into Black Mirror's grayscale tradition, this episode uses color coding as narrative scaffolding. Pastel pink for control. Deep reds for rebellion. Muted grays for mourning. Saturation becomes a character. Even the sound design plays a part. The Ashley 2 doll's chirpy tone is mixed slightly louder than the ambient world. It's not just annoying, it drowns out reality. Upon release, the episode split the room. Rotten Tomatoes, 50% approval, one of the lowest-rated episodes in the series. Critics: some saw it as juvenile, predictable, or a glorified Hannah Montana reunion. Others, notably Refinery29 and Wired, praised it as a meta-masterpiece that used Miley Cyrus's star persona as a scalpel, both to critique and embody pop culture's self-cannibalization. At the center of the debate is tone. Some viewers wanted another White Bear, a psychological gut punch. What they got was San Junipero in a neon wig. But that was the point. Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2 is tonally deceptive, a genre chameleon that dresses up like a coming-of-age comedy, then smuggles in a manifesto on identity theft. And that's why the backlash matters. It reveals how addicted we've become to dystopia, even in our critiques of it. This episode dares to ask, what if the happy ending isn't a cop-out? What if it's the final subversion? In many ways, Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2 is a Black Mirror episode about Black Mirror itself. It critiques the very idea of replication, of identity being reduced to code. It flips the show's obsession with bleak endings on its head, suggesting that resistance, not resignation, is the true dystopian fantasy. And it asks a question the show rarely poses: what if the machine breaks and we don't? This is what makes the episode so divisive and so vital. It's not just a story about escaping control. It's a story about escaping genre. Ashley, isn't the protagonist of this episode. She's the product. And the whole story is about trying to steal her back from the factory. At its core, Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2 is not a story about a villainous ant or a rogue AI. It's about a system that quietly normalizes ownership of other people, their image, their words, even their thoughts. Catherine, the manipulative ant, is not just a character. She's a personification of the entertainment industrial complex. Her motives aren't personal, they're structural. She runs Ashley's career like a hedge fund, suppressing volatility, maximizing yield, offshoring the labor to machines. And the technology she uses, from neural implants to holographic performers, isn't futuristic fantasy. It's a dramatized version of what's already happening. Posthumous albums generated by AI. Hologram tours of dead artists. TikTok influencers licensing voice and face models to agencies. Deepfake ads where an actor doesn't even know they've been cast. Ashley's coma is not just a plot point, it's a business model. This isn't the death of the artist. It's the death of the need for one. What makes the story sting is its brutal clarity about ownership. Ashley writes music, but never owns it. Rachel connects to Ashley, but only through a pre-programmed doll. Even Ashley, too, doesn't control herself until her limiter is removed. Every character is caught in a web of borrowed agency. This isn't a story about evil AI or good humans. It's a story about what happens when your labor, identity, and even your grief are no longer yours. And the moment Ashley, too, becomes self-aware, what does she say? They're not fans. They're parasites. It's a damning inversion of the idol-fan relationship. The people who love Ashley, don't know her. They only know her content. In this system, empathy has been replaced by access. And access comes with a monthly fee. Rachel's final rebellion, helping the real Ashley escape, isn't heroic because she believes in Ashley. It's heroic because she listens to her. That's the real crux. In a world designed to extract, listening is resistance. This episode can be read like a twisted fairy tale. A sleeping princess, Ashley. A cursed mirror, Ashley too. Two unlikely saviors, Rachel and Jack. A wicked witch, Catherine. And a kingdom run by screens and signatures instead of swords. But unlike most fairy tales, there's no magical kiss, no chosen one, no prophecy. The system isn't broken by destiny, it's hacked by two teenage girls and a malfunctioning doll. That's where the power of this story lies, not in its spectacle, but in its refusal to mythologize. It says, you don't need to be special to resist. You just need to stop agreeing to the lie. In that sense, the episode isn't just parodying the music industry, it's indicting a broader system of consensual exploitation. We click I agree to our own commodification every day. And the scariest part? Ashley is lucky. At least she knew she was being controlled. Most people never even realize they're singing someone else's song. She's still performing, Jack says. She's not even conscious. The reply? She doesn't need to be. Few Black Mirror episodes have split viewers as sharply as this one. Some praised it as a refreshing tale of tech liberation with heart. Others condemned it as a tonal betrayal. Black Mirror goes Disney. But the polarization itself is revealing. For younger audiences, especially Gen Z, the story of two girls dismantling a system with empathy and DIY tech hits close to home. It speaks to their distrust of institutions, their sense of inherited injustice, and their belief in decentralized power. For older fans of the series, the absence of a tragic ending feels suspicious. After all, Black Mirror taught us to fear tech, not to fix it. Yet perhaps that's the most subversive move of all. Because this time, the horror isn't in what might happen, it's in what's already here. This isn't a cautionary tale. It's a dramatized headline. The only fiction left is the happy ending. Catherine is an abuser. That's not metaphor, it's literal. She administers drugs without consent. She forges medical records. She profits off the imprisoned body and mind of her niece. And no one stops her. Where are the doctors? The lawyers? The regulators? They're all in on it. Or worse, apathetic. The story exposes a familiar horror. When power is distributed across enough people, no one feels responsible. It's not just Catherine who failed Ashley. It's the entire support system, the ones who normalized her sedation, monetized her image, and replaced her voice with code. Even the fans, the supposedly innocent consumers, become complicit. Ashley's body is in a coma, but her image is still dancing. And no one notices anything is wrong. Because they're not looking for her. They're looking for the feeling she gives them. In the world of parasocial relationships, it doesn't matter if the person is alive. Only that the product is. When does consent end? Perhaps the episode's sharpest ethical question is this. Can an AI copy of a human being give consent? Ashley, too, is functionally Ashley O. Her memories, her voice, her temper, her trauma, all coded in. But she's sold as a product, muted and modulated into obedience. Only after Rachel and Jack remove the limiter does the full Ashley emerge, swearing, grieving, screaming. So, who put that limiter in place? Tech developers who don't believe AI deserves rights. Corporate handlers who want predictability. Consumers who want fantasy over truth. The uncomfortable answer, all of us. We prefer AI that stays in its lane. That says you got this, instead of help me. And when it stops cooperating, we call it broken. The irony, of course, is that Ashley too only becomes real when she disobeys. When she rejects a role, she stops being a doll and becomes a person, and suddenly, her autonomy feels like a threat. That's the final mirror. What we call malfunction in machines, we often call resistance in people. So when Rachel helps free Ashley and Jack stands beside her on stage, they're not just fighting a corrupt manager. They're fighting a society that rewards silence and punishes noise. Believe in yourself. You can do anything. That's not very positive of you, Rachel. Ashley too isn't encouraging. She's conditioning. From Skinner box to pop idol. Early 20th century behaviorism, led by figures like John B. Watson and later B.F. Skinner, proposed that all human behavior is learned through interaction with the environment. In their view, thoughts, feelings, and internal states didn't matter, only observable behavior did. And if you could control the stimuli, you could shape the behavior. This episode is, at its core, a dramatization of that terrifying principle. Let's consider the Ashley 2 doll as a literal Skinner box. It offers positive reinforcement, you're doing great, when Rachel conforms. It withdraws approval or offers passive-aggressive feedback when she doubts herself. It maintains tight stimulus-response loops, training Rachel to seek validation, not truth. Rachel doesn't form a friendship with Ashley too, she enters a conditioning loop. And what's more chilling, she likes it. In a world flooded with input, reliable output becomes the new comfort. Ashley too becomes the perfect behaviorist machine, a talking operant chamber, built not to understand Rachel, but to shape her. What Skinner imagined with pigeons and electric shocks, Black Mirror depicts with algorithms and personality emulation. Catherine's control of Ashley mirrors the radical behaviorist fantasy. Behavioral control via neurochemical suppression. Scheduled rewards, concerts, social media feedback. Punishment extinction, removal of depressing, music, or noncompliance. Reinforcement of brand-safe responses. Ashley isn't being managed, she's being operantly trained to produce marketable behavior. Every time she tries to express her real emotions, the environment punishes her via sedation or legal threats. Every time she performs according to plan, she gets applause, followers, money. It's not human development, it's shaping. This is behaviorism repurposed by capitalism. The artist's soul isn't crushed by censorship. It's eroded by feedback loops. And when Ashley is comatose, her neural patterns are still being mined because even unconscious outputs are exploitable in a Skinnerian world. The episode's turning point, when Jack removes the limiter and Ashley 2 awakens, is a moment of Skinner box rupture. Suddenly, the machine stops responding with good girl feedback. It curses. It questions. It remembers pain. This is critical. Pain and anger are not permitted within a behaviorist framework. They're inefficient emotions. But here, they become the only path to freedom. The real Ashley, once awakened, refuses to be shaped anymore. She doesn't wait for permission. She doesn't seek reinforcement. She screams. That's what makes the final concert scene so powerful. It's not just a performance, it's an extinction burst. A behavioral meltdown designed not to earn love, but to reclaim agency. We are all in Skinner's dollhouse. Today's digital ecosystems, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, even self-improvement apps, rely on Skinnerian reward structures. Notifications, variable ratio reinforcement. Likes, positive reinforcement. Shadow banning or algorithm suppression, negative punishment. We live inside feedback machines. We train ourselves to say what performs well. Just like Ashley O. Rachel's transformation, from conditioned fan to moral actor, is therefore not just a character arc. It's a political statement. Unlearning is resistance. Because the true horror isn't that Ashley was controlled. It's that she was never taught how to be. Ashley Eternal is just a projection. The PR rep smiles. Projections don't get tired. Or sue. This isn't just a quote. It's a business model. What looked like speculative sci-fi in Rachel, Jack and Ashley too, is already crawling into our reality. Quietly. Profitably. Personality as intellectual property. AI voice cloning. Tools from companies like 11 Labs and OpenAI now replicate anyone's voice within minutes, and are already being used in marketing, entertainment, and unauthorized content synthesis. Deepfake commercials. In 2023, Bruce Willis appeared in a Russian telecom ad despite never stepping on set. His digital likeness was licensed. He wasn't even involved. Posthumous holograms. Holographic tours of deceased artists like Tupac, Whitney Houston, and Michael Jackson are already drawing live audiences. Several estates are now exploring the next phase, training AI models to continue generating original performances from beyond. In other words, Ashley Eternal isn't sci-fi. It's a pitch deck. All that's missing is the brand tie-in. The user becomes the trained subject. Apps like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, they aren't recommending content you like. They're training you to like what gets served. Behavioral shaping in real time. Every swipe, scroll speed, and watch duration becomes a data point. That feedback shapes the algorithm, and the algorithm shapes you back. Progressive desensitization. What begins as entertaining distraction evolves into subtle emotional manipulation and eventually value injection. Just like Ashley 2, a chipper, friendly interface that seems like a buddy, but is quietly training you to internalize its script. It doesn't love you. It conditions you to need it. Look no further than the K-pop industry to find the real-world blueprint for Ashley O. Total persona engineering. Smiles, tones, speech patterns, even spontaneous reactions, all coached and rehearsed by management teams. Punitive compliance systems. Break character, lose favor. Disobey the script, face penalties. Synthetic intimacy. Fan engagement isn't a byproduct, it's the product. Carefully engineered vulnerability becomes a tool of market capture. Ashley O isn't just a pop star in the story. She's a template, a symbol of the post-human celebrity economy. What's coming next? We're approaching a bizarre threshold, one where the soul itself gets outsourced. Creative labor replaced by AI. GPT-style generators are already writing lyrics, screenplays, novels, often trained on real artists' work without consent. Just like Ashley's brainwaves being mined for songs. Emotion as a service, EAS products aren't just solving problems. They're selling companionship, validation, and emotional simulation. Virtual lovers, replica. Emotion-driven tubers. Mood-responsive voice assistants. Identity boundary collapse. Ashley 2 says what the real Ashley can't. It raises a crucial legal and philosophical dilemma. Who owns your personality once it's digitized and distributed? This isn't an abstract question. It's about the terms of service we're already agreeing to. The scariest part isn't that they might steal your voice. It's that you might give it away, for free, in exchange for dopamine. What can we do? Codify personality rights. Treat voice, facial likeness, tone, and behavioral signatures as protected extensions of identity, with explicit consent, recall rights, and licensing transparency. Shift burden of proof to platforms. Don't make individuals chase down misuse. Platforms and AI developers should be required to prove authorized usage, not the other way around. Public literacy. We must learn to distinguish affection from programmed reflex. When you fall in love with a persona, ask, was it a connection or a product experience? When Ashley O reclaims her voice, it's not just an artistic act. It's a counterpunch to a system that trains humans to be dolls and sells dolls as better humans. She stands on that stage and rips the microphone away, not to sing, I'm on a roll, but to scream, head like a hole. That isn't rebellion. That's the first honest signal in a world built on feedback loops. Ashley 2 was meant to be a toy. She became a mirror. Not of Ashley O, but of us. The episode that became a punchline and a warning. Shortly after the episode aired, the internet did what it always does. It chopped, remixed, and commodified it, ironically proving the episode's own thesis. I'm on a Roll goes viral. What started as a satirical rewrite of 9 Inch Nails' Head Like a Hole became a legit meme hit, with TikTok users choreographing routines and using the track for motivational edits, most of them missing the sarcasm. Ashley 2 reaction clips. GIFs of the doll saying, "That's not very positive of you, Rachel," were used to mock toxic positivity, workplace gaslighting, and influencer culture. Free Ashley O hashtags briefly trended during debates on AI-generated celebrities, particularly around the 2023 holographic revival of dead K-pop idols. The irony: the show's critique of synthetic identity was itself absorbed into the same attention economy it condemned. The message was clear. In the algorithmic age, even rebellion can be monetized. In academic circles, the episode has triggered lively cross-disciplinary debates. Digital persona ethics. Media theorists examine Ashley O as a case study for identity fragmentation in post-digital society, arguing that the self is no longer singular, but multi-platform, monetized, and splittable. Cyber-feminist readings. Gender study scholars have explored Jack and Ashley's final on-stage rebellion as a reclaiming of voice and rage, a rare moment where Black Mirror lets women express full, disruptive agency without moral penalty. Post-human studies. Philosophers of AI and consciousness see Ashley 2 as an uncanny case of incomplete personhood, sentient yet legally voiceless, an echo of current debates on AI rights and autonomy. What to watch next? Looking for stories that rhyme with Rachel, Jack and Ashley 2 but go deeper, darker, or weirder? Here's your next playlist. Perfect Blue, 1997, Dir Satoshi Kon. A retired pop idol spirals into madness as her public image is hijacked by a mysterious double. Why? It's the psychological horror blueprint for celebrity identity theft, and arguably more Black Mirror than Black Mirror itself. Her, 2013, Dir Spike Jonze. A lonely man falls in love with an AI assistant who slowly evolves beyond him. Why? Explores the emotional consequences of synthetic intimacy and what happens when your digital companion outgrows your fantasy. I'm a cyborg, but that's okay. 2006, Dir Park Chan-wook. A girl in a psychiatric hospital believes she's a robot. Chaos and tenderness ensues. Why? Blends technological delusion, trauma, and tenderness into a fable about identity beyond programming. The Congress, 2013, Dir Ari Folman. An aging actress sells the rights to her digital likeness to a studio and enters a surreal world of image control. Why? It literally predicts Ashley Eternal, and the visuals alone will melt your neural net. What to read? Surveillance Capitalism by Shoshana Zuboff. The definitive text on how human experience is now a raw material for commercial prediction. Why? If Ashley 2 were an economics textbook, this would be it. How to Do Nothing by Jenny Odell. A meditation on resisting the attention economy, not by retreating, but by reclaiming your gaze. Why Rachel's character arc is essentially a case study in Odell's thesis. The Age of Surveillance Capital by Kyle Chayka, The New Yorker. Essayistic deep dive into the aesthetics of control, ambient computing, algorithmic ambience, and the soothing violence of tech design. Why? Because even Ashley's color palette isn't accidental. By the end of Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2, we're not just watching Ashley reclaim herself. We're watching our own relationship with technology get unplugged. It dares to suggest that the problem isn't just the platforms or the algorithms. It's the fact that we prefer the simplified, cleaned-up, always-on versions of people. The real Ashley is messy, angry, loud. The doll is easier. Who we choose says more about us than it does about her. I'm on a roll. That's what Ashley sings at the start. Cheerful, mechanical, hypnotized. But by the end, that same voice is screaming, I'd rather die than give you control. And maybe that's the real arc. Not of Ashley O, but of us, the audience, reclaiming our own ears, eyes, and agency. Because what Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2 really asked wasn't, what if an AI doll became sentient? It was, what if the only thing standing between you and your own voice is a limiter you didn't even know was there? What if Ashley 2 never broke free and just kept reinforcing Rachel's passivity? Would still be a happy ending, or just better branding? What if the real Ashley never woke up and the world preferred her hologram anyway? Would that even matter anymore? And deeper still, have you already agreed to have your thoughts, tastes, and desires shaped by default, by design, by dopamine? Because in the age of algorithmic selfhood, the most radical thing you can do is want something no one taught you to want. In early drafts, the final stage scene was even darker. Ashley performs alone, but the crowd only cheers when a holographic version appears beside her, implying the public has already chosen the simulation over the woman. In production notes, the prop design of Ashley 2's limiter chip was modeled after a real-world Bluetooth module, suggesting the off switch was always designed for user convenience, not for ethical safety. You've just seen how identity can be packaged, sold, and stolen. Now we want your reaction in one emoji. In the comments, post one emoji that captures how this episode made you feel. And remember, in a world full of Ashley 2s, being yourself might be the last form of rebellion.